Hello and welcome everyone to this TidBits video where I'm going to share some common sense safety tips in regards to keeping pedestrians extra safe. So let's just get right into it, and we'll start by talking about a typical side street which is wide enough to fit 3 vehicles side by side. Now, the important thing to remember here is, when you're stopping for pedestrians, make sure you stop in your proper lane positioning, which is what? Do you remember? To the immediate right of the center point. So this way, anyone approaching from behind has a better chance of possibly seeing the pedestrian for themselves, and this could also help them understand why you're stopping. And don't get really close to the crosswalk area as well. Stay a good 2 meters or 6 feet back, so about half a car length away. And keep in mind, as you can see here, if you position more towards the right, the vehicle behind you not only can't see the pedestrians, they may also assume that you're pulling over to park, and then they'll move to go around you, putting those pedestrians in serious danger. Okay, now let's move on to a situation that's a little more complicated. And now we're dealing with a street that is wide enough to fit 4 vehicles side by side, so each direction basically has a driving lane and a parking lane. Okay, so I'm driving along and I see there are pedestrians ahead who are heading towards the street, so I'll need to position my vehicle as I get ready to stop so they can cross the street. So to keep the situation as safe as possible for the pedestrians, I want to move my vehicle over just a bit to my right, which does a few things. So first, it means that I've taken up space in both of the lanes on my side of the street, so this way no vehicle should try and pass me, which keeps the pedestrians safe. And secondly, it opens up the vision for the driver behind me, which is not a big deal when the person scans from far back. But if that person gets distracted and scans late, well, your lane positioning would allow that person much more visibility at this closer distance. Now, unfortunately, once again, I must say, I wouldn't do this on your road test, just in case your examiner doesn't understand why you're doing what you're doing and marks you for being in the wrong lane position. But any other time, this is a very safe way to give pedestrians a little extra safety. Okay, now let's add a parked vehicle into the mix. So in this example here, as you can see, the red vehicle easily blocks my view of the pedestrians. But now here, if I move my vehicle over to my left, like we talked about in the first Going Around Things video, which is basically a full vehicle's width away from the parked vehicle, you can see how my vision has now opened up and I'm now able to see the whole area where the pedestrians are. Now, just to be clear, since we did just talk about road testing, if you do this on your test, then I would handle it like a lane change. Signal, check your left blind spot, move over, and immediately cancel your turn signal. Then when you go to move back into your original lane positioning, you don't need to signal again for this situation, but you do want to check your right blind spot before you start to move back over. Now, in the third Going Around Things video, we talked about being careful not to cry wolf as a driver, which is where you keep almost coming to a stop every time you see anyone, anywhere near the road, really close or not. And then I asked the question, does the great driver have any responsibility for what may have happened when the red vehicle got frustrated and took off to pass? And now I'd like to finish up this video talking about some of our responsibilities as drivers. So let's wind back and talk about this parked vehicle, because part of our responsibility is to think about pedestrian safety even when we're parking, especially if you drive a large vehicle. So when parking as the vehicle first in line from the crosswalk, if there's no signage telling you where you're allowed to park, then you definitely don't want to park any closer to the crosswalk than where you would have stopped to wait for the pedestrian as they cross the street. And if you're a large vehicle, even adding a meter or a few feet farther back can be helpful. But just make sure that the space between you and the start of the crosswalk area isn't large enough that another vehicle can fit into that space. Otherwise, you're defeating the point, because someone could come along and park in that space, which once again challenges the safety of the pedestrians. Now, here's another way you can try to be helpful as a person driving a large vehicle. So let's say there's an event happening and you know the streets will be filling up with parked vehicles, but you're early enough to have a choice of parking spots. So one way you can try to be helpful is if you park your vehicle in a way that only allows for a small vehicle to be able to fit in between the front of your vehicle and the crosswalk. So once the street fills up, it hopefully ends up looking something like this. And you'll also want to carry on and follow these same rules anytime you're parking near the corner of an intersection. So just by doing these small types of things, it can make a big difference in the overall safety of everyone around you. So anytime you're doing anything even as simple as parking, look around, scan for possible dangers, and if you see a way to lessen any danger, then do your part. I mean, imagine if we all approach driving in this way. Okay, so I hope this helps answer the question, just what is our responsibility as a driver? Which is to just basically do everything we can think of to help everyone around us stay as safe as possible. Just to do our part and nothing less. So until next Tuesday, I'll say bye for now and take care.